Hey guys, this is the $100 million podcast. We're here with our guest today, Vishar. She's got a really amazing product. She's just about to launch it. We're really excited to hear about her story, how she came up with this, what she's planning on doing, where she's going. We're going to listen to all of it. Vishar, how you doing today?
Hey, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us the elevator pitch of who you are.
I'm Vishar. I'm the founder of Toothpod, which is a dental smart gum to clean your teeth when you don't have access to a toothbrush or toothpaste. It cleans your teeth through anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and remineralizing agents. And this dental chewable is world's first patent-pending, clinically researched dental chewable. My background's in public health. I was a dental lab technician at the University of Toronto, and I got my Bachelor of Science there. And I started it when I was in university, and now it's coming to life, and we're launching soon. So I'm really excited.
Man, that is awesome. That's awesome. So we like to kind of start here, going back. What kind of family did you grow up in, and how did that kind of shape you into ultimately being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I definitely grew up in a on my dad was my dad is an entrepreneur and was always an entrepreneur since I was born, and so I guess I saw him make decisions every single day about his business. He's an architect, and so when we moved to Canada, he built everything from scratch. And I had watched him and my mom build a life from zero. And that was like, we used to live in this, there's four of us live in this like one bedroom apartment. And my brother and I would share like the living room with our little cute bunk bed. And now I just saw us build a life from almost ground zero all the way to up. And that was really cool to watch. And it was really because of how my dad moved in his business and how he made business decisions and how my mom moved in the household, and throughout her job. And I just witnessed, and I guess mirrored it, and I never realized that I was mirroring it until maybe I was like 20 or something like that, when someone asked like, oh, like, how did you learn this, or like, where did you learn all this? And I was like, I guess all of it comes from my family. So yeah, definitely my a family of artists too. My mom is an artist, my dad is an architect, so they both appreciate art deeply. I've always played music growing up. It's always been a let out your emotions through creativity type of household, and so I think that allowed me to have like multiple different channels of outlets, one shall say, and while I was doing everything I was doing. I think I started my first business when I was like 12. When we first moved to Canada, I would like go knock on doors, and it was like a dog service business, and I was like, I'll walk your dog for like 25 cents. And it was funny because I did that to like our whole neighborhood. And then eventually I switched to like a nail business and like a fundraising app. And I was just like growing up with my family, that's how I operated always. And then when I was 18, I got to U of T and I was like, I want to work on something that's big and it's public health related. And that's kind of the inception of Toothpod, and that's how it started.
Awesome. Well, tell me more about those younger years. What are some lessons you specifically remember from your dad?
Lessons. I think, oh my gosh, so many. In terms of what? Like, there's like 100 different topics. Give me a topic.
Well, we like to kind of stick maybe more entrepreneur business wise.
Okay, so lesson on business. I think when I was a kid, obviously he wasn't like sitting there and teaching me all this stuff, but I was just kind of learning as he was moving, and it was make decisions very quickly, make decisions very fast. Like I would just see him have like 6 months to tear down an entire, like he's an architect and he also does a lot of construction, and now has a really successful construction company. So I would have to see him do something in 6 months, which means he didn't have enough time because the winter season was coming in Canada, and it's very it's very hard to function in construction if you're in the snow. And so making decisions fast was always his style. Like he would know what to do, how to do it, exactly when to do it, and even if he didn't, he would take time to think about exactly how he's going to make that decision that day or the next day. So that's something that I always just naturally picked up on, and then obviously we talked about it more as I was building Toothpod when I got older, but since I was a kid, it was always like that. Biggest learning lesson was the never, almost like not have, like my dad was basically building for our whole family. So he didn't have a choice he wasn't in a position to be like, oh, today I'm not going to work, or I'm going to like give up, or I'm going to not be resilient. It was like built in to our like family system and dynamic to just keep going and make it happen until it happens. And I think that mentality carried through in business really well, because to be a founder, I think, is like essentially the game of not giving up. The game of, I think Alex Hormozy also says this too. It's like, it's the last man standing. And I deeply understand that, because there's so many bad things that happen. So many things that make you want to be like, I'm going to give up. And I just watched my dad go through all of it and continue. And I think that was not something that he even had to like teach or say. It was something that I just witnessed every day. And that just made me think about life like that. It was like, if you really want something and that is your goal, and if you really want to make a difference, or you're passionate about something, or whatever it may be, you just don't give up, and you just find a way to do it. Unless like there's like a really big sign from the market, and that's just screaming at you saying whatever you're doing is not working. So then at that point you just pivot. I would say that's my biggest learning lesson.
How have you exactly applied the making quick decisions? Give me an example of how you apply that today.
Ooh, I'm getting so good at this. I learned this and iterated again in Next Canada. I had a mentor, his name was Reza Satru, and he grilled this decision making into our class at Next Canada. And at first I wasn't good at it, but today, for example, I was like, okay, we're gonna hire someone. Maybe 1 year ago, I would have taken like 1 month to think about, are we gonna hire them? Are they the right person? Should we look at everyone and see who it's gonna be? But I had already interviewed, top 6 candidates yesterday, and I made a quick decision. I was like, this is the candidate. I already did all the quick steps to know exactly why this is the candidate. We're gonna make this decision today and sign today. So it was less dragging things along and thinking, I'm going to have more information and more candidates and maybe this will be right. It's like, no, I've made this decision. I have 80% information to make this right decision. I'm going to make it today and pull the trigger today. And that's what happened. It's like, what time? It's like 12:30 p.m. So I feel like that decision would have taken a month, whereas it took me like 2 hours to make today, which I think just develops over time.
I love that. What about your mom? What's some lessons? You said that your mom was really good at taking care of the house. Talk about that.
Yeah, my mom is an early childhood educator, and so she is the most kind, wonderful human being on the planet, and she works with children every day. And I think her presence in the household would have never allowed my dad to do what he did. It would not have allowed him to flourish the way he did, and I think it was just about showing up and supporting her partner in the best way. And I think my mom is the most beautiful human example of what a supportive woman, wife, partner looks like. And that's something I carry through with myself every single day. And it's really, how do you support your partner while they are also in build mode? My dad was in consistent build mode, and so she was able to support him in so many different ways. And she also has her own, she speaks fluent French, and she's an incredible artist. So she has a lot of passions, and I think she always encouraged me to continue building through a place of passion. And that's not necessarily a privilege. I think that's a privilege in business, because sometimes you don't necessarily get to work on what you're passionate about. You get to work on sometimes what you're not passionate about, what will put bread on the table. But I think my mom was a great role model in always doing something that you're deeply passionate about, because that will carry you through the hard days. And I think that's why, in combo with my dad, who was always in business, I was able to work on something I was really passionate about, build a business I'm really passionate about, especially the problem I'm trying to solve. Because on the hard days, that's probably the only thing that carries me through. And that really comes from my mom being like, work on something you love, because it won't be worth it if you don't love it, if you don't enjoy your day to day. And obviously being a good partner. I think those were like very, very hard life lessons that she taught me, because I think it's very hard to do that, especially in this day and age, I think.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure, for sure. Well, so tell me, I know it's a different situation, but you're the CEO, and like how I like to say CEO is Chief Executing Officer.
Yeah.
I forgot what book that's from, but great, great saying. So how do you kind of take those lessons from your mom and being able to bring out the best in your CFO? I know you got kind of a team going together now, and you have different moving parts. How do you take that, bringing the best out of everybody's personal, skills, being the owner of this business?
I think your job as CEO, I like the way you say it, CEO is enabling people in your team to do the absolute best they can do. And I think that doesn't mean doing their job for them or micromanaging them or telling them what to do. It's telling them what to do in detail. It's like knowing what they are good at and enabling them to do that. So, for example, I work with my co-founder Brian. He is the CSO, Chief Scientific Officer of the company, and we have our head of content, Jaren, and he's absolutely phenomenal at TikTok Shop. And so I don't go and, I'm not like, oh, Brian, like, this is exactly how you should be applying to these very specific grants. It's like, I know you're very good at this. Let me try to find a list of opportunities and grants and give them to you so you know exactly where to put your energy. It's about prioritizing, I think, one, like your job as a CEO is to give company like a very clear mission, North Star on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis, on a quarter-to-quarter, like essentially your job is to make sure everyone is on track on their priority. The company's priority this week and today in this very second is this. So if there's any task that you're working on that is not related to this North Star, you're wasting your time, and don't do that. And so I think it's about reminding people what that is, and then two, enabling them to do the best they can do in their jobs. So for example, with Jaren on TikTok, it's not about me being like, this is exactly how you should film a TikTok. It's like, okay, hey, I actually have like 5-10 minutes today to film something. Is there something you want me to film that's going to help you finish XYZ project? Or can I provide XYZ resource for you, like this course to learn TikTok's new rules on GMV? Like, it is just enabling them to do everything they can do. And I think one big part of that is making sure they're learning. So I'm like, okay, like, take this course and let's talk about what you learned next week. So they're constantly moving forward and they're constantly growing, and they're able to be their best self, and they're able to feel extremely empowered in what they're doing. And I think that is how I would want to grow in a team. And that's how I've asked them how they want to grow in a team. And that's also their mission and vision, because they appreciate growth. And so that's why I think as a CEO, it's like prioritizing, making sure everyone knows that like what page we're on, what's happening in the company, and enabling people to do the best that they can. And if they're not the right, it's not the right time for them to be on this team. They need to not be on the team. Like, I think it's very clear when someone is not able to be their best and do their best on a team, and it's no longer serving them to be in that company. And I think it's recognizing that as fast as possible, because people keep, like, they burn cash for a really long time keeping people on who are not an absolute, excuse my language, but an absolute fuck yes employee. Like, you can't, it's like you can't have like a, oh, maybe, kind of, they're okay. It's like a, no, they're a fuck yes, and they should be here, and they definitely, like, are doing an amazing, phenomenal job. They're taking initiative. They're constantly asking questions. They're constantly giving feedback. They understand criticism. They give criticism in like the most healthy way. And I think those are some of the things that are really important for a CEO. And also like recruiting good people who are kind and caring, and like they're not like horrible people, but like are absolutely good at their job, and they're going to fit within a good company culture, whatever that company culture is, for that CEO.
Right, right. Building a team of A players, right? No B players, no C players. You're only as strong as your weakest link.
Yeah.
I like that. Let's talk about high school. Going through high school, people are asking you, what do you want to do with your life? You're going to graduate. What are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do? What kind of was your thought process then?
I was the girl who was like the president of like the peer tutoring club. I was the first peer tutor in high school ever. Like starting the first day of grade 9, I was peer tutoring. And like I was the, I don't know, president of the mental health club. I don't think anyone ever was like, what are you going to do? Because it was very clear on like, I was going to do something that was going to be awesome and something that I obviously loved.
Super cool. I like
But
that.
I guess like my family would be like, "What do you want to do?" And I would be like, "I want to go into." All I knew was my next step, which was like I'm going in to learn health studies and public health. Because when I was 16, I had knocked on like 1,000 doors on our neighborhood, literally over 1,000 doors, and I was like, "I'm raising money for building water systems in Ecuador. Do you want to donate?" And I was like this little 16-year-old. I was going around with my brother in the neighborhood, and so raised tons of money through school events and stuff like that, and went to Ecuador. Was physically building water systems with for families that didn't have access to clean water, and so that is when when I decided what I wanted to do when I was 16. I was like, I'm going to be in public health. I'm going to do health studies, and this is where I'm taking my life. No matter in what shape or what form. It turned out to be in the form of entrepreneurship, because I was like, how do I make the highest impact possible? And in my opinion, the highest impact possible is made in made being a founder. And so
Mm.
that's the route I decided to take. Instead of working with government organizations or larger corporate organizations, I was like, how do I make the largest impact as fast as humanly possible in this space? And so literally Toothpod started because I was Googling top problems in the world. And number 1 was poverty, and number 2 was cavities. And I was like, there's no way that someone has not done anything about this. And I was an entrepreneur by accident. I was not supposed to be an entrepreneur. Like, yes, I had my businesses when I was like 12. It was eventually totally going to happen, but I didn't go into university being like, oh, I'm going to be a founder, or oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I went into university being like, how do I make the biggest impact, and how do I do it as fast as possible? And then that turned out to be building something for your own, to do that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Tell me about your first couple uh, jobs, either in high school or after high school.
I worked at a restaurant. I worked at a meat butcher shop when I was 14. I was in this like little restaurant, meat butcher shop, salad zone. Like there was everything. It was so fun because all my friends and I worked in the same place from like 7 a.m. all the way to like 7 p.m. We would just be like customer service. I learned every type of like steak cut there was like, and then I worked there until I was 18, and then at 18 I was doing. At some point I was doing PR, public relations, for an architectural firm, and then I was on the board at the University of Toronto, the governing council, which was super awesome, because I also was like, how do I make the biggest impact in the mental health system in my university? And I also simultaneously worked at a restaurant, probably when I was 21 or 22. I was like a server, and then I was a hostess, and then I moved up to being a server, and then I just kept doing jobs that I think were really important to understand the service industry and understand like the respect that people deserve in the service industry. I would have never learned that if I wasn't like a server myself.
Mm.
Yeah, and I also did a bunch of random jobs here and there. Like I was always doing something. Like I constantly was tutoring math, constantly tutoring science. I still sometimes tutor math and science. Um, yeah, those were my jobs. And then obviously I was building Toothpod alongside all of this at all times. And then last year is when I stopped doing everything and I was just doing full-time Toothpod.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to talk about those jobs. I worked at Chick-fil-A for
Nice.
was it 5 months? Learned a lot, about, and I don't know if you have Chick-fil-A in Canada, but Chick-fil-A is one of those. Do you have Chick-fil-A in Canada?
I love Chick-fil-A. Yes, we have
Okay.
two Chick-fil-A's in Toronto.
And just the yes behavior, the amount of quality of service that Chick-fil-A requires is beyond everything else. Definitely learned some places in there. Was absolutely not the place for me, so I got out of there quick. Um, I went in there because like all my friends were getting jobs there, and so I was like, oh, I'm gonna go, hang out with everybody, and it just the that kind of works now for me. So and then also I knocked on doors like my whole entire life, been knocking on doors. So I want to talk about that a little bit more about how I think how important knocking on doors is, getting all those no's, getting those that embarrassing kind of like, oh, what are they going to say, and just like getting those repetitions in of knocking on doors. I think is a phenomenal
Yeah.
learning thing, and one of those skills that like. I know for a fact if I need to go make money tomorrow or today, like right now, I can go out, knock on some doors, close something, and it's just such a beautiful skill for sales, for communication, learning how to talk, learning how to get over fear and all these things. So we'll talk about all that. But I want to talk about your restaurant experience. You were saying that that really kind of helped develop the service. Would you say the service, the hospitalityness in you? Tell me a little bit about those skills, and then we'll move on.
I think that always came from my mom since I was like a kid. Like how to respect every human and how to just be respectful in general. The service industry was just a practice, the more reps of that. There's more reps of serving people and making sure they have an amazing experience, making sure they come in and they enjoy their meal and it's on time and that they're taken care of. And they have a good experience. And I think that's a very valuable thing because you have like a family of 10 coming in for a birthday party and you're serving them. You want to make sure that they have everything that they need, that they're happy, and that this is something that they're going to remember for a really long time. So it was just reps of how do you do it? How do you continue just serving people honestly in an authentic way? I really liked it because I love spending time with people. And I got to know so many people when I was serving. I would talk to tables, I would learn like so much about their lives because everyone was just like in such a social setting, in a social space. It was cool. It was like a very wholesome experience. I think I learned a lot about I think key learning, like key learning when I was serving was how do I find presence in something that is not my forever job? And that was a hard exercise at first because in that moment I was like, I'm not going to be a server forever. But I'm here now in this moment. How do I make the most of it? How do I absolutely thrive in it? How do I become the best server I can ever be? I literally took a notebook and I wrote down. I've never drank alcohol before, but as a server, you have to explain. Like I worked at a brewery, I had to explain to people like what the alcohol tasted like, and so I had like this little notebook and I would write down all the different types of drinks, all the different types of flavors. I would go ask around everybody being like, what does this taste like? What does this feel like? What is this? So I would memorize everything to make sure I could explain it to people. Like I really indulged in the experience and I think that was really awesome because I was very present. Even if it was not my forever job. And that really showed me that I could thrive in any space if I choose to love it in that moment and be present in it. And then 2 years after, I was the team manager for the varsity women's basketball team. And I did the same thing there. And I was like, this is not my forever job, but how do I indulge in this. And it was the same thing. I would write like little notes on like Gatorade bottles for the girls, or like I would book the best hotels and book the best meals. Like I indulged in it, and I think it gave me so much out of the experience, and I think that's something that I get to carry with myself every single day. In anything that I do, even with Toothpod, even if someone asks me something so simple, it's like, hey, let's throw an event or let's throw a party. It's like, okay, how do I put 100% of my energy into this, and how do I love it, and how do I absolutely provide the best experience for everyone as I possibly can.
I love that. I love that. That is awesome. I want to talk about your door knocking experience. Again, door knocking, phenomenal thing. I've done so many door knockings. You did it for charity. I did it for, sharing some Jesus, sharing the gospel, getting jobs, getting clients, doing it for just so many reasons. And I absolutely love door knocking. I want to hear about all the reasons you did door knocking, kind of the different things that you learned from it. Would you do it again? How would you suggest somebody to start? Somewhat.
Just start knocking. Just start knocking. Like, I didn't think about it when I was like, oh, we need to raise money for Mothers Against Drunk Driving. It's like an organization in Canada. I was like, we need to do this for brain cancer research. We need to raise money for, what else do we raise money for? Someone had passed away at our school because they got hit by a drunk driver. And so it was like an instinctual, I was like, what do we do right now? How do we raise this money? And it was like charity week, where every week my girlfriend and I, her name is Kirsten, her and I are best friends, and in high school we would like go door knocking. It's always easier to do it with someone else. I would say if it was just me, I would have a really hard time door knocking when I was 14, obviously, but I think now I don't have as much of a hard time doing it alone. Like if someone was like, can you knock on 1,000 doors alone? I would do it still. But when I was starting out, it was a lot easier to do it with someone else. And I think that's my number one advice. Like if you can find someone that's as passionate about door knocking as you, like do it with them. And I think that will shift your whole experience. Like I remember knocking on doors and it was cold. It was freezing. Like our hands were so cold. But we were still going. We're like, hi, I'm Vishar, and she would say, I'm Kirsten, and we're raising money for, brain cancer research, and this is why. Are you willing to donate? And most houses would all donate. Most houses all donated. And it was beautiful because I remember it deeply because it was with her. It was an experience shared with someone I really loved and someone I was able to share this experience with. She was my best friend. So I think that is a very meaningful experience. And I remember us going into the houses. Like they would invite us and it would be like beautiful Christmas trees and like it was just the most beautiful experience of all time. And you never think, oh, I'm going to knock on 1,000 doors, raise money for charity, and it's going to be the most awesome experience ever. It really was because I was doing it with her and like so many amazing things came out of it. And I remember this house one time brought us like $100 bill and we're like, oh my God, like we're hitting our goals so like high, like this is so cool. Like the celebrations of it was cool and like the lows were not as low when, 10 houses would say no to you and you're just like, oh, this sucks. We're cold and we're freezing. Why are we doing this? What's the point of this? Someone's there to pick you up. And you're there to pick them up and you're gonna be able to keep going. So I think that's the advice I would give is find someone you can do it with, and if you can't, make sure you're taking the time to share that experience with someone, at least like on a phone call or something, and give yourself that room. And then knowing, I guess my second piece of advice is knowing that the no is as one of my best friends says, the rep in the mental gym. Like we have a physical gym for our physical bodies and we have a mental gym for our mental game. And someone saying no to you once versus the 100th time you're going to have a much easier time digesting that because you've just had more reps. And it's really about giving yourself the reps to be rejected, the courage to be disliked, the courage to be to be rejected is going to be the most valuable thing you can learn in life, because people will not like you. People will reject you. It will be part of the life experience. And I think the more reps you get in just learning that, which I think door knocking is the fastest, best way to get that. Even on a phone call, like sales phone call, or however way it is, it makes founding a company a lot easier, because you're constantly getting no's, and you just keep going until something clicks and something works.
I love that. Yeah. And who was it? Mark Cuban, Let's Start at No. Um, maybe it wasn't Mark. Maybe he suggested that book, but Let's Start at No. I forgot who wrote that.
Wow.
Great book. And just a great opportunity to get those reps. There's nothing like actually doing sales face to face versus somebody on the phone. The
Yeah.
motion it's a lot more emotionless. Being able to work on your body expressions and stuff like that for sales, it's just phenomenal. So love door to door. Love that experience that you shared with us. That's great. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing now. Give us another elevator pitch for exactly what your company is, and yeah, we'll start from there.
We're building Toothpod. This is what it looks like. It's a dental smart gum to clean your teeth when you don't have access to a toothbrush or toothpaste. It helps rebuild your enamel through hydroxyapatite. It helps decrease gum inflammation and bad breath in the mouth. It has an anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial property, and it is a dental chewable, and it increases your pH to an 8.4 when you chew it for 5 to 10 minutes. And that means your pH is normally at like a 7. If you drink coffee, it drops down to like a 5.5 normally, and that means your mouth is now in an acidic state. So when you chew Toothpod, it helps increase the pH of your mouth, which means it puts your mouth in a non-acidic state, which is really, really great for your oral hygiene. And so it does improve your oral hygiene in several different ways, and it's great for camping, hiking, when you don't have access to a toothbrush. If daily use, if you're trying to heal enamel. And we're launching November 20th, which is really exciting. And we are launching into one of the largest dental supply organizations. They have over 400 dental clinics, and we are running all of our clinical trials right now at Harvard School of Dental Medicine, which is super exciting. And I'm really excited for the research. So yeah, that's, I guess, a little bit about Toothpod.
That's awesome. So when did you come up with this idea?
When I was 18, years ago, when I was 18, I was like Googling top problems in the world. And number 1 was poverty, and number 2 was cavities. And I was like, what? It was the most preventable chronic disease in the world. As in, almost 100% of the population experience this problem. It is preventable. And I was like, hold on, why? And it was because we're consuming more sugar than ever before, and we're brushing less more than ever, which means the combo of that is terrible, because you're just not, and we're not brushing properly. We're brushing very ineffectively. 1 in 25 people follow the complete oral hygiene regimen recommended by dentists. Most people don't floss. So I think it's because the modality of brushing has failed us, because we're consuming so much more sugar now. And I think that's where Toothpod fills the gap, because brushing itself is just not enough anymore. If it was, almost 100% of the population wouldn't have cavities.
Mm. So how does this actually work? You kind of have this idea, you saw the cavities from somebody that has per se an idea from their perspective, and they want to put their product out, or at least see if their product works.
Yeah.
How'd you go about that?
Um, I emailed 600 chemists and hygienists and
Wow.
dentists and U of T professors, and I was like, how do I build this? I was 18. Like, I'm not a dentist. My only background was high school. I was like, how am I going to do this? And so I was like, okay, I don't know how to do this, but I bet you other people will. And so I'm going to find the right person to work with me to build this. And I literally, day one, started just email, like, I got the whole email list from, I don't know, the chemist department at U of T, and I started emailing, and I just started, like, going to professors' offices, and I was like, how do I break sugar down? How do I do this, and how do I do that? And I was just curious, like, insatiable curiosity was what got me here. I found the right co-founder. He is finishing his PhD in biomedical engineering in gingival tissue engineering. He was able to help with the formulation, and it was incredible because then we sent it off to research facilities and did saliva testing. It was just phenomenal because it was a ripple effect of curiosity led me to figuring it out. Like, I wasn't sitting there being like, oh my God, I don't have the background to do this, so I'm just not going to do it till later when I have the experience. I was like, okay, I don't have it, someone else will, and we can do it together.
Wow.
And I think that's how I approached it, and then it worked out beautifully because now we have, the head of orthodontics at Harvard is on our advisory board. We have tons and tons of dental supporters, dental key opinion leaders that are part of our team. Tons of research has gone into it. And it all started because I was emailing, literally sitting on my computer and emailing people being like, how do I do this? How do I build this? And I think that's what helped drive, I guess, the initial building phase of it.
Wow. That is like very good, very practical advice. Is just like you just started getting it done. You started emailing people that knew better than you and you got it done. How long did that whole process take? So you started at 18, you found the problem. When did you come out with the first product?
Yeah, so I started last year actually working full time at the company. So in 2024 is when everything started. 2019 is when I conceptually had the idea, but I was in school. So I graduated in 2023, and that's when I was 23. At that time I was 23. So like 19 to 23, I was conceptually playing around with the idea, and I was like, how am I going to build it? What is it going to be? And then in 2024, I really started to take it seriously. And that's when I was like, we're going to go to conferences. That was the most life-changing thing for the company. We went to a conference with our customers because I was like, we don't know who the customers are. Is anyone going to care about this? We went to a conference and we met like everybody and anybody we needed to meet in order to understand if there was a real need and demand for this. And so then we took the research to Harvard. Then we got a partnership with the dental supply organization. Then everything kind of gets kick-started there. And our product is launching now. So from January of 2024, we were doing a lot of R&D, research and development, manufacturing, packing, co-packing, fundraising, like the most. And then in 2025, we had 216,000 pieces ready, and now we're launching everything in the world November 20th. And we've pre-sold about 20,000 units. So exciting stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how well does it actually work? Do you have any kind of stuff? I know you're still getting the research done with Harvard.
Yeah. So the current research based on saliva testing and disclosing tablets, which is a type of testing, shows that it removes twice as much more plaque than the regular xylitol chewing gum, and it reduces gum inflammation, bacteria related to gum inflammation, bad breath, and tooth decay, which is cavities, by 30 to 45% after 5 to 10 minutes of chewing it. So that research was enough for us to take it to Harvard and say, can you continue adding on to this research? And each individual active has over 2 to 15 years of research and clinical trials on the benefits of it. Helping reduce gum inflammation, helping remineralize the enamel, helping reduce specifically bad bacteria in the mouth. So each active has like significant amount of research on it. We did our own research, and obviously we filed a patent on the combination of our ingredients, as well as we've now taken it a step further to do a clinical trial where you're trying Toothpod, and a group that's just trying Toothpod, a group that's just brushing their teeth, and a group that's just chewing regular gum.
Oh, yeah, that'll be an exciting one. I
Yeah.
like that. How did you find your co-founder? Is that from all the
Emailing.
emails?
Emailing. And it was like an organization at a university that had interns. So he was actually an intern for the company for like the first 4 months. So we worked together for 4 months before I decided he was going to be my co-founder. And it was awesome because we got that experience. Like, he was on calls with me at like 11 p.m. and I was like, this does not give intern energy. This gives co-founder energy. And so we decided that after working together, but it was like a fulfillment of a program he needed to require. And it was like I was sending out emails, and he came back to me saying, "Wait, this looks so interesting. I want to be a part of this." It wasn't like I was like going around being like. It was like I threw it out in the universe, and I was like to a lot of people, to professors, and I was like, "Can you send it to your students?" And da 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 da. And then who was interested came to me, and that was a good way of, testing out like if someone's really aligned with something and really finds it interesting, because they have to go out of their way to respond to it. They have to go out of their way to be part of this project.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, having a product and getting it started off, doing the research, all that is really, really expensive. How did you kind of go from idea to actually getting the funding to be able to, test it out or at least put something together?
Small. I started small. I was like, I started pitching, and first ever prize was $1,000. Second prize was $10,000. Third prize was $60,000. I just started pitching and pitch competitions, and University of Toronto gave me so many resources to be able to. They enabled me to be able to push this out. So university space was a great space for me to do that, and there are incubators and accelerators that are not part of universities that also help do that. So, for example, Max Canada, there's tons in the U.S. where they provide funding, and you don't have to be part of a university. And so that's how I started. I started by just taking it small, and with the $10,000, I was like, okay, what do we do with this? Let's get the first ever samples of Toothpod, which is like 400 pieces or something like that. And then let's give that to clinics. Let's do a small clinic test. Let's use that data to then go to the next stage. And we did, and we got another grant, and then we started fundraising, and then we got a partnership. We went to a conference. We got a grant from my tax to go to a conference in Chicago, and the grant itself was like $5,000. But the value that brought and the ripple effect it had was incredible, because it then got us a partnership, which then got us investment, which then got us to Harvard. Like, there was just so many different things that it had a ripple effect on, and it started with like $500. Initially, I put a lot of my own money into this company, but initially it started with like $1,000. It wasn't, you don't need the craziest thing. You just need a little bit of money to go to the next step, and then do a lot with that, very limited resources, and then go to the next step.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed. This is very good practical takeaways. So you had a little money, started doing pitch competitions.
Yeah.
How does somebody get into one of those? They have an idea, they just look up online, pitch competitions, they go, and this is a charity that they're giving you $1,000, or the $30,000 or $10,000, and they're not getting any equity. This is just kind of like a promotion, like, hey, we're going to give this to you. This is charity. We hope that you use this to grow this company.
There's tons and tons and tons of resources like that in the US and Canada. Canada's very good with it. I would go to ChatGPT and Google, give me the top 20 pitch competitions that are going to happen over the next month or 2 months or 3 months. Apply to them with the best story ever. And then get the first money, or invest. If I were to go back, I could have invested my own money to do it faster. Like, pitch competitions and grants, they take a long time. That's why from when I was in university, this wasn't really moving. It was kind of like I was in school, it was an idea, it was a concept, it was a school project. But like, if I were to take it seriously and quit my job and start a company, I would invest my own money as quickly as I can, get to the next stage as quickly as I can, use that, fundraise, and or bootstrap, right, to get to the next stage and kind of go from there. But if someone was to go through the same route of like pitch competitions and stuff like that, I would just ChatGPT opportunities. And then when you go to those places, those people, as you converse with them, they'll know more opportunities. So like, I would go to an event, meet like 4 or 5 people, and each of those 4 or 5 people would then direct me to this other competition, and then I would apply and then go there and then win. And every time I would do it, I would get better. And some I would lose. Like, I lost a pitch competition, 2 weeks ago for $30,000. Like, and then the wins and losses become very normal, because you just win and you lose and you win and you lose, and it becomes normal. And then you're able to, when you win, take that and move the company forward to the next step.
Mm. When you keep mentioning all these different next steps, can you just kind of run through all the steps real quick?
Yeah.
What is the first step? What is required to get to the next step?
Minimum viable anything that you need. That's how I would say it. Like for a B2B SaaS company, you need a minimum viable, like, create a Figma page on what it's going to look like. That is free. You can freely use your imagination and creativity to draw it out. And then show it to customers. Get customers to give you like 5 LOIs, which is letters of intent. Take that, take it to an investor, or take that, use it for a pitch competition. For us, it was like minimum viable product. Our minimum viable product was $10,000. So I needed to get $10,000 in order to get a minimum viable product, in order to go to the next step, to test it out in an orthodontics clinic. And so that's exactly what I did. Pitched, got enough data, got the minimum viable product from our manufacturer, and then went and pitched again, and then used that momentum and kept going and kept going. I would say customers will always be the most valuable information you have for any pitch competitions or investment. If you have a customer knocking on your door saying they want what you are going to build, it is going to be extremely valuable. So don't waste your time trying to get to a bunch of random stuff, but use your time intentionally to try to talk to 20 customers who would want your product, who would sign a letter of intent saying, I would 100% use this and pay $5,000 for this platform per year. Like, you have 20 of those, bang, you can show that to so many people who will support you because they know what you're building has value that people will pay for, even if they have not paid for it yet. So I think those are some of the mini steps that I'm talking about. It's like getting letters, maybe not letters of intent, but like real customers who are interested. Maybe they're not going to put their credit card down yet, but you're getting a grip on like what you're building is real and people want it and people will use it. And your job will be to figure out how to get a good product. And that's what takes money, right? Like, let's say you get 20 customers, then you're like, okay, now I have 20 customers who are interested and will pay $5,000 per year for my platform and software. And now I'm going to go to an investor and pitch this idea to them, because I'm going to say, look, I have the customers. They are interested. We have everything ready. All I need to do is get 100 grand, hire the best person I can. And look, I have them here. Like, they're ready. They're going to be working, right? I have them here. All I need is 100 grand, get this person to create a product to then install it into the customers. Customers like software or whatever that would be. That would be like a software example, in my opinion. And then like a product example would be like, hey, look, like I have a dental supply organization that is asking for these, that is willing to purchase Toothpods, that is willing to use this in their clinics, dentists that have pre-ordered, prepaid hundreds of dollars of product. I need money to create a batch, and I need money to be able to execute this. And here's my plan, here's my data room, here's everything that's like readily available for you to review. That's how I was able to fundraise and use grants and pitch competitions and things like that. It's like having a real business means having real customers. So if you can prove that you have real customers, most of the work is done. You just have to get product to them. And that part, I think, is the extremely hard part if you're trying to do like something phenomenal throughout. But as long as you're willing to do it. If you're a biotech company that's building something that's like 5 years FDA approval, that's a different story.
What about equity? What part of these fundraisings was an equity giveaway? And what part of it was just a lot of grants? So you're mostly going after grants, which nobody has any tie to, from what I understand.
Yeah. Depends on the stage. Like, the more traction you can build, the more you can bootstrap amazing things and build partnerships, the less equity you will have to give away. And that's what we did. Like, we developed a partnership. I did so much of the work. I did more grants and more grants than necessary, which took longer. Like, I'm not saying do this, but I'm saying that's the pathway that I chose based on where I was at in my university career, like I was in college. But I will say a lot of people will go directly towards the VC route and say, I have a $20 million valuation. This is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to do it, and this is why it's going to be great. And then that VC invests, right? As long as the founders are amazing and they know what they're doing. they know the market, they know what they're talking about, and they're not fake, essentially. You can give up less equity the more work you do as a founder and as a business owner. Or you could choose to bootstrap and not go the VC route at all, which is something that a lot of people choose because they don't want a boss. And that's totally, totally something that's important in knowing what you want and the type of business you want to have. If you want to have a lifestyle business and you want to have it 50 years and then hand it over to your family, maybe VC is not the best route for you because they want an exit in 7 years, typically 7 to 10 years. If you want, a business that is a unicorn business, you need VC. Because how are you going to get to $1 billion as fast as possible without competitors coming in? So I think the exercise is, first, what type of business do I want to have? How do I want to move through the world? And how intentional do I want to be with this business? How long am I going to be in this business for? Do I see myself here in 5 to 10 years? And then 2, it's how much equity do I want to give up? And if I want to give up less equity, that may take more time because I'm doing all the work to prove traction. If I want to give up more equity and move faster, there's still value in that too. So they don't always go hand in hand. Someone can have a $20 million valuation and move fast and not spend a lot of time. And someone could have a $2 million valuation and move fast. And it depends on the founder and the VC and what they're willing to invest in, how your company is valued. And your company is valued more the more you can prove that you have a real business. So I think that's how I would approach that.
What stage do you feel like you're at now?
Pre-seed, about to launch. Not, I think. Okay, so my one of my advisors, one of my mentors from Next Canada, his name is Ajay. He explains this really well. He's like, there's 2 stages of a company: pre-product market fit and post-product market fit. We are pre-product market fit. So I think that's where we're at. Those 2 stages, and we sit at the pre-product market fit. So as soon as we know who's going to be the buyer, who's going to be the repetitive purchaser of the product, it would put us slightly into the product market fit stage.
That's awesome. And so when you guys are going to launch, you already have 20,000 units plus maybe sold or pre-sold, kind of pre-guaranteed. You're going to do B2B first is what I'm understanding, and then you're going to go direct to consumer, or are you just going right up? You have a website, Amazon, all of it.
Yeah. Both B2B and D2C. B2B to C is our model, but consumers can get it directly from toothpod.co. So consumers can buy it from toothpod.co. It will be on Amazon. It will be on TikTok Shop. So it will exist on the D2C platforms, and it will be launched through dental clinics. So it will be launched through, for example, we're shipping this out to over 30 dental clinics just this month. We shipped it out to over 1,400 hygienists, dentists, dental accountants, dental managers 2 weeks ago. We're going to ship it to another 1,000 hygienists next week. So I think it will go to B2B through dental clinics, and then D2C, everyone will have access to purchase it as well. And it will have subscription, so monthly, you'll get a monthly subscription of your dental hygiene pack, essentially. This is what it looks like. You can't kind of see I'm disappearing, but yeah, this is what it looks like.
Super cool. Great packaging.
Thanks.
Great packaging. Well, I know we've been talking for a while. I got so many questions. I mean, a fountain of knowledge. I'm very impressed. I'm very curious about all these different things, how you came up with the packaging and all these different rabbit holes we could go down. But I know we only have so much limited time here with you. So I kind of want to next talk about education. You seem super educated and smart about all of this. How do you educate yourself right now?
Oh my God, it's never been this easy with ChatGPT. I used to have such a hard time trying to find the best resources to educate myself. Now I'm like, hey, ChatGPT, I want to be like the most expert, knowledgeable person on this topic. Create me a 30-day educational plan on how I'm going to do this and create the content for me. And ChatGPT will create a 30-day plan for me. And I'm like, okay, this month I want to spend 10 minutes a day or 20 minutes a day or 1 hour a day doing this. Can you create an educational plan for me? And it will create it for me. And then if I want to learn how to code, I will find the best platform to code. I think I was using Memo or something, Memo, to learn how to code like last month. I realized I didn't like it. So I was like, I'm not going to continue educating myself on something I really don't like, but I'm going to go through it at least for like a couple months to see if that's true really, or if I just need to push through the do it, we can do hard things part. Um, Once I hit through that, okay, I've done the hard thing, I really just don't enjoy my time, I switch over to a different topic of education. I think in my current field in startups is talking to customers, talking to key opinion leaders, always taking notes, always understanding where the market's at, constantly educating yourself on where the government is at with this stuff. Like, where is the government like spending their money? Where's the government putting in? It's just about like knowledge intake, and that can be really overwhelming. So it's about putting in like 10 minutes per day, being like 10 minutes today I'm just going to knowledge intake, and that's my goal. It's small. So I honestly go through rabbit holes. I'm probably there for like at least 30 minutes just like trying to grasp information, but it's never been this easy to grasp knowledge. And ChatGPT can be wrong, but you can always double check your sources if something feels very like iffy or weird. And there's tons of content creators that are so good at educating, and tons of podcasts and tons of just amazing resources out there. I would definitely recommend ChatGPT creating like a learning lesson plan, 5 minutes a day on the most topic that you're interested in, and or the topic of your company. And then my second recommendation would be like podcasts. If you're like running, cooking, I don't know, walking to the gym, like taking that time to just try to take yourself out of yourself, your own body and your own mind, like stepping into the real world on like what's happening. Can I educate myself? Like I was listening to this podcast on like where are we at with the world, with tariffs, with with the war that's happening across different countries, and I think that really helps think less selfishly around like what is happening in the world right now. How do we get educated on stepping out of our own body for a second and thinking about others, and thinking about everyone else in the world that is suffering through things that you may not be suffering through. And I'm not saying indulge in that or like put yourself in that. I'm just saying, for me, I find that really helpful to just step out of this like very North American way of living on like always do better, be better, eat better, sleep better, and do all these. And it's like amazing, do all those things, but take some time to think about the external world that's around you. And I think that's a huge part of education. Educating yourself on real world shit. Educating yourself on topics that you are interested in. Taking responsibility on being aligned with yourself means indulging in things that you really want to indulge in. If someone wants to be a doctor and all they're interested in is science, and all they're doing is doing a different thing related to music, I think it's like human responsibility. I think it's like their own personal responsibility to take like the 5 minutes a day to educate themselves on what is it like being a doctor, what is it like studying biology every single day, or whatever it may be. At whatever age, I think at any age, this is something that I would recommend. It doesn't work for everyone, and some people hate it, and that's totally their way of living, and I respect it. But I definitely think it is a helpful way of being aligned with yourself, and a helpful way of recognizing what's happening in the world externally.
I like absolutely love that, and I'm gonna actually start doing that. I think that's a great way. I know like you can use ChatGPT to make books, like hey, make a book of all Alex Ramonzi and Mr. Beast or whatever, and how they do content. Make me a specific book on this subject using these people. Dan Martell says stuff like that. Love it. But like what you were saying, like give me like a 10-minute a day educational course for this month. I'm like 100% going to start doing that. I think that is a phenomenal idea. Um, Absolutely love that. That's great advice. What so many great things I took from that. I'm actually learning a lot, and I'm very impressed with a lot of things. And the educational part of it, when you were saying like how you actually educate yourself, I think that's so cool. I talk to so many people, and they're like, "Oh, I just like start doing things," which I think is great. I personally learned like off of YouTube's and mentors, right?
Yeah.
Lots of YouTube, lots of mentors, lots of books. And ChatGPT now, like recently, is just so crazy. It can, being that books is one of the best ways that I've learned. You can have ChatGPT write you a perfect book for exactly what you need for your situation, for the amount of time you have. That's a great, you blew my mind there. And it's kind of one of those, like, it's always good to like talk like this because it's one of those, like, that's such an obvious thing that, well, oh, that's such an obvious thing. I don't know why I haven't thought of that before.
It's hard though.
Um,
The accountability part of it is hard because you're pushing yourself to learn something that's not in your day to day, and it's hard to do that. Like I did not have an easy time doing that at the beginning. I was like, oh my God, why? There was times where I'm like, learning is hard. Learning isn't easy. So you're like putting yourself through something hard, and you're like, I'm already going through so many hard things. Like, why is this added to my plate? So it was hard, but the value, like just taking this Sunday night to reflect on, wow, I've learned so much from this mentor, from this book, from this thing. Like Sunday night reflections are the times in which gets you to keep going and doing things and setting intentions to be more mindful about how you're existing in the world, in my opinion. So I'm like, okay, Sunday night reflection. What did I learn this week? Did I grow as a person? Did I spend time one-on-one with my family? Did I, was I more kind? Was I more caring? Was I triggered? Like I was just things that you're like, did I show up for myself? And I think to me, education is a part of that. To some people, education is not a core value, so that won't align with them. And I don't think they should They should educate themselves every day if that's not their core value. Maybe staying fit and healthy is their core value. Maybe spending time with their family is their core value. Like you don't have time for everything, but as long as you take the time to reflect, did I show up the way I wanted to show up? I think is really important. And it's cool that you learn from YouTube videos and mentors. I haven't tried YouTube yet, and I need to get on that wave. I haven't yet.
yeah, well, it sounds like, everybody has their own path of education, and it sounds like you're learning well one way or the other. I mean, YouTube just like the podcast with different learning stuff, but
Yeah.
I want to talk about quotes. Do you have any quotes that really inspire you that you like a lot?
Hmm. A few. Um, no decision is a decision. That's one I carry with myself every day to be a better decision maker and a faster decision maker for my business. When I push it off, that is a decision. Um, so no decision is a decision is something that I really, really carry with myself. Um, I guess this is not a quote, but it's a daily reminder that I say. It's like, we are one. Um, I remind myself every day that we are one, that it's important to be one with yourself and be one with others, as in like respect others, be kind to others, like be compassionate. And that goes towards yourself too, because I do believe, and this is a very more like Buddhist way of looking at the world, but it just reminds me to show up every day with intention, with kindness, and with care, and that goes towards others and myself. And I think people can tell, like when you're not listening to your intuition and something's wrong, you can tell. Your body will react to that. You will react to that. Whether that's like who you're talking to, the friend you're spending time with, the work you're doing, you can tell if there's like something off. And I think the exercise and the quote, we are one, and just reminds me of like, remember to stay silent for 10 minutes today, to figure out who you are and how you can be aligned with yourself, how you can show up as yourself and not be afraid of being disliked and doing things that you don't want to do, living in a way that you don't want to live. And I think that is a very important quote that I carry with myself. It has so much depth and context to it on like, I think humanity in general. We don't put as much effort into being aligned with our conscious and our subconscious mind. Most humans, they're very misaligned. That's the gap of like anxiety and depression and eating disorder, and a lot because your conscious and your subconscious mind are very misaligned. So I think to be one means to be aligned, means to show up with intention for yourself, so you can show up with intention for others. And I think that's something that I carry with myself every day, and it's a reminder, and it's hard. But I think that's one, and the decision-making one is one, and then I have like 100 other ones that come to me randomly throughout the day, but I think those are the highest impact ones.
Hmm. What's some bad advice you hear a lot of people say, and what would be the alternative to it?
I
Or maybe
think
even a bad quote that you don't like.
a bad quote that I don't like. Oh my gosh, there's so many. I literally just try to not like keep them in my head. Um, I don't know, when people say like absurd things that ignore the mind and the body. I'm like, that is terrible advice for your mind and your body. Someone who's like, I don't know, an advice that people are like, you should work all the time if you want to be successful. To me, the all the time, I'm like, what do you say? Like, you want people to work like 24/7, not spend time with their families, and then like get to their deathbed and be like, wow, I worked so hard, but then there's no one around you. Like, I have very strong opinions about this, so I think that's bad advice that I just don't appreciate or like. I respect if that's how someone wants to live, and that's how, if that's their core values. But if that's not their core values and that's the advice that they're putting out in the world, I'm like, I feel like that's ignoring the other parts of humanity, which is relationships and community and love and care and compassion. And I think when you go to Europe, you know the difference between work-life balance and how people live to work or work to live. I don't know what the variation of it is. And then in North America, it's very much like people work all the time to have a good life, versus people have a good life and they work in certain different countries and cultures. So it's just, yeah, that is advice that I don't like. Ignoring what matters most in life. To some, maybe work matters most, and I respect that. But to the people who that doesn't matter most to them, and they still give out the advice of you should work all the time, and that's just a projection of their own experiences, I'm like, that's bad advice. I may not say anything because people will live the way they want to live, but if they ask for my opinion, I'll be very honest about it. I'll be like, that is just brutally not good. You should not be working like that. You should still put time towards what matters. Yeah.
That's good. On the I like that. I like that. Good balance, making sure you have time with family and even helps you kind of get extra work done, right? Making sure you have a little bit of relaxation time, extra time with the family. And that's really what it's all about too, is family and friends, relationships and stuff. Um, all the good stuff. I wanted to ask, since we're on the educational topic, if Vishar could write a book, and this is the only book you can hand somebody to be successful in business, they don't know anything, right? Kind of what would the chapters be, and what are some of the stuff that you'd write in it?
The most important thing in running a business is taking care of yourself first. How you run your own mind and your body is how you run your business. That's chapter one. And I would give all the advice from what I've accumulated to this day of my life, on how I did that. Yeah, I would definitely put that as chapter one. Like, the absolute importance of, if you can't run your own life, if you're not eating enough and your body's not functioning and your mind is convoluted with so much stuff that's happening in your personal life, like, you will not, like, it will be very hard to run a business. I've seen people do it. It's not that they can't. I've seen millionaires do it. It's not about the can't, it's like the quality of life and your quality of business, I think. I've never seen a happy millionaire run a business if they're not taking care of their mind and their body. And then the next chapters would be really about business itself. It would be like the business structures, right? Like finding customers, kind of all the advice I had given initially, on like the right customers and what the minimum viable product, before and after product market fit. Literally just combination of all the business books I've ever read, I would just put into this book. So I know that this person's not going to be missing out on what's critical and important. And then there is a book, I don't have it here with me, but it's really phenomenal. And then I would end it with, maybe chapter 2 actually would be like a lot of questions and a lot of prompts to help that person find their mission, to help that person find themselves, to help that person get to a place in life or a place in their mind where they can move needles. And that means like, the questions that I've been asking throughout this podcast, it's like, what type of business do you want to have? What type of life do you want to run? I would give them different scenarios of like entrepreneurs and founders that live different lives, like Elon Musk or something like that. And I'm like, these are some of the examples of amazing entrepreneurs who have done things in different ways. Like, I think inspiration is the source of how a lot of things get started in life. So I would try to inspire them as humanly as possible, and give them a inspiration pack on like, this is the different types of entrepreneurs that exist. Which one do you resonate most with? And try to keep it as objective as possible without any personal opinion, and let that person resonate. And then kind of give them as much business advice in the next chapters as I possibly can.
That's awesome. Well, some really good stuff. Give us some plugs. How can we hear more about you? How can we get in contact with you? How can we get some of your product?
Toothpod.co. That's where you get product. And that's probably where you'll find my LinkedIn or me. Vishar, obviously, Vishar Yaghoubian is my name, so I'm always on LinkedIn. On Instagram, toothpod.co. That's how people can find us, and I hope that they do, and I hope that they check it out, and I hope that they try Toothpod. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Our $100 million guest today, Vishar with Toothpod. Super great product. Super excited to hear more about it. It's coming up later this November. So all the links that she mentioned are going to be in the description for you guys. So like, subscribe, share this with somebody who's going to find value in this content. Vishar drops some amazing, amazing practical takeaways on how to get your business, from an idea to rolling to do millions of dollars, right? So guys, like it, subscribe, share it, and peace and love. Bye.